there, I suddenly attack. I have taken the vor. I am in the vor. I am in the before. I have the initiative. That's what they're talking about. Most German martial arts are about taking and keeping the initiative. Okay? So, before and after. Most techniques are about what to do when the other guy got the vor, and now you need to take it from him. Does that make sense? Okay? The next thing is strong and weak. When we're holding this axe out here, now, Joe doesn't look like it. He's actually stronger than I am. Stronger than most human beings I know. Okay, he holds his axe out like this. And I want to push his axe out of the way. If I get out on the very tip, and Joe resists me, even with the best strength he has, I win. Okay? This is the weak of his axe. Does that make sense? When you hold a sword, the part closest to the cross is the strong, the part closest to the point is the weak. The strong on the axe is here. Now, if I fight Joe here, right, I have a much harder time accomplishing anything. Obviously, the demi-hash is the strongest part of the axe. Strong. Sorry, folks, there's something about California air. When I talk for a long period of time, it's like my throat goes. All right. Now, when we strike our axes together, we are said to bind, all right? So Joe stops my attack, and we are said to bind at this point. We can be either hard in the bind or soft in the bind. Usually someone is soft in the bind if he's getting ready to go do something else. If that makes sense. Right? He is hard in the bind if he's just going to hold. Now, hard in the bind does not mean pushing. It just means I'm holding hard in the bind. Does that make sense to everybody? Or I can be soft in the bind. Because maybe I'm about to go do something. I'm thinking or I'm whatever, and I'm not controlling it. Does everybody understand those concepts? In order to determine whether somebody is hard in the bind, we come to the next pair, and that is fühlen and indes. Fühlen means feeling, and it is literally feeling that bind to determine whether he is hard or soft in it. Yes? Makes sense? Okay. Indes is sort of the opposite of fühlen. Indes is to act immediately, right now, simultaneously, meanwhile. All of these are terms that other folks that do translation like I do it, we all fight about what the hell this word means, because we don't really know, okay? But it means to act immediately, right now, okay? You don't bind and stop and think for a moment. You bind and go to the next thing right away. That's to act indes. Does that make sense? So we have before and after, hard and soft, strong and weak, fühlen and indes. Those are what I call the 8 oppositions. There will be a quiz. Okay? Does everybody roughly understand those ideas, though? Yes? Any questions about that? Okay, good. Good. Let's go on now. We're going to start looking at stance and footwork. I'm not going to go heavily into German stance and footwork. First of all, it's simpler than you would believe. But secondly, we're not really here to start a course on the Pollaxe. This is an introduction. But I want you to get a sense of this. First of all, you're always going to have the qua on the side of your right hand. Okay? So your right hand will always be closest to the qua. You will almost always, with very rare exceptions, have the foot forward that matches the end that's forward. So if I have my cue forward, my left foot will be forward. If I have my qua forward, my right foot will be forward. Does everybody get that? Okay? The only footwork we're going to use is a passing step. That's hard, right? Huh? And a lunge. Okay? That's it. There is other footwork in our system, but today that's all we're going to use. And that they aren't hard, you need to practice them particularly, but I want you to understand when I say pass, I want you to do this. When I say lunge, I want you to do this. Everybody with me on that? Any questions? All right, let's practice. So, get in a stance, and you put your feet about shoulders width apart. No. Not here. That's why I didn't talk about stance. I'm sorry. We don't want to line up with our feet like a fencing stance. Okay? Very bad. Because when you do that, what part of your body tends to go? The armpit. We're going to get to targets when we go to the attacks. This and the face are the two deadly prime targets of the art of the poleaxe. Okay? And you don't want to give the guy the armpit. It's just too dangerous. So you stand square to it. So take your feet, step shoulders width apart. Step one, shoulders width back. You are now in a good balance stance. Keep your hips squared to the front. Remember, you're in armor, right? So you want to be square to the front so he can't stab you in the gaps. Does that make sense to everybody?
Question, Jeff. With that grand bassinet on, standing sideways is virtually impossible unless you don't want to see the guy, right?
Basically, yeah. If you want to be blind, stand like this.
Oh, I know what it is.
Okay.
Your head and your body are locked together.
Yeah.
You
Although,
can turn your head slightly depending on the adjustment of your helmet.
I was a little surprised at how much I could peek you around the corner wearing one.
Yeah, you can to a certain extent.
Yeah, it isn't much, but a little more than I thought I could. All right. Next thing is the, oh, we were going to practice. Okay. So we're just going to pass. Everybody do that? Oh, that was hard. Pass back. This is German footwork, people. Because we're German martial artists. We are
Lazy.
lazy, right? We don't want to do hard stuff. All right, now everybody lunge. Now here's the thing. Look what you just did when you lunged. And I'm just picking on you. Everybody does it. You start in a good balance stance, and when they lunge, they come into a T fencing stance. Okay? You have to be careful of that. When you lunge, look at my square position. I end up in the same square position. When I pass, I end up in the same square position. When I do a slope step, I'm not doing that. I end up in the same square position. I am always in die Waage, it's called. Die Waage. Waage means balance, like a balanced scale. And the reason we call it that is because in German martial arts, a fencer with a rapier can stand like this because nobody's going to come up and push him on his chest and knock him on his ass, right? We always have to be aware of the fact that when we're fighting, we have to be balanced in every direction. That's what die Waage, the balance, means. Okay? Everybody on that?
I would also add that if you're in harness, you've got 60 pounds of armor on you, don't put your feet like this. Don't do this.
Right, exactly.
Because you can't move without unbalancing yourself.
That's exactly right.
Keep your feet close together, and you have to take small moves. Don't take a big old step
Right.
through.
In fact,
Take a small one. Just
what,
to there. Just keep your weight
the
balanced.
Dobringer House book says. He says, don't take big steps. 2 smaller steps are faster and safer than 1 big one.
I lost a fight at the tournament this last time because I overreached with
Yeah.
my feet. I stepped too
I'm
far.
going to show you guys a technique where almost everybody overreaches, and it kills them when they go into a fight. All right.
Is the upper hand typically palm in or palm out?
Thank you. That's my next subject. Very good question. The left hand always holds the axe with the thumb pointed towards the qua. Always. There are no exceptions. Okay? However, the right hand can either the thumb can either point to the male. Now you don't actually put your thumbs up. I'm showing you which way it's pointing, right? You do grip it. But it can either point towards the qua, or it can point towards the cue. We call this thumbs aligned grip, and we call this thumbs opposed grip. You are going to find that the thumbs opposed grip is vastly more useful for a lot of poleaxe techniques.
However, that's way dangerous too. You can easily get the thing knocked out of your hands if both hands are like this.
Well, we're going to talk about that. You can easily get it knocked out of your hands the other way too, if you do it the way I show you. In fact, the guy who wrote the Jeu de la Hache, we don't know his name. I'm not going to tell you what we call him because JP will hit me. It's not complicated. But it is, because we really love it. It's fun company. The guy who wrote it, his favorite thing in the world is to get one hand off your opponent's axe. Because a one-handed poleaxe, I'm not saying it's completely useless, but you're going to have a bad day. So Jeff's point is really important, and we're going to talk about how to do that and how to accomplish it. Okay. So for much of what we do, this is the better way to hold it. But this, you see this all the time too. So it's not, one is neither right nor wrong. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions about all that? All right. Let's talk about simple attacks. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, guards. You guys got me all discombobulated with questions. We're only going to use 2 guards in this class. There are 4 guards of the axe, but we're only going to use 2 of them. The first guard is the guard of the low cue. Okay? The names are really simple. The Q is low. Right? Rocket science, yeah? Okay. Again, either way. But don't do this. Right? Very bad. You're going to use this grip. Keep your elbow back. What's that elbow? Right? Make your weapon your shield. Yeah? So the guard of the low Q. You don't want it out here. And I'm going to, one of the techniques I'm going to teach you today will show you exactly why the hell you don't want that. Right? You don't want it in here. There's an interesting buckler book by a guy by the name of Degrassi who talks about how you hold a buckler. Okay? And he says you want to hold it extended from your body because the little tiny buckler makes a big shadow. The bigger shadow, the further away from you it is, right? Your axe is sort of the same way. Within limits, you are better protected with your axe a little bit further away from your body than you are when it's in here from a static attack. Does everybody get that? So this is not a good guard. This is a good guard. It should be a relaxed, comfortable position. And you don't want to be as far as you are here. You want to be open like this. Bring it up like that so it creates a little more of a barrier. Okay? There's no hard and fast rules for these things, guys, but it helps with static shots. All right, so that's the first guard. The second guard, now this is complicated, so please pay attention, is the guard of the low dag. Okay? This is, as you probably can guess, primarily a thrusting guard. All right? We're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of that position. Again, notice I got this end is forward, so my right foot is forward. You with me? Already got that? The other guards, which we're not going to use much today, are the guard of the high Q, again, right? Again, see? Not there. Here. This is awkward as hell. Until you get used to it, you want to stand edge on. You really do. Okay? And then the guard of the high quad, or high dag. Right? As if you just swung a blow. You follow me? This guard is useless. It is the worst guard. So why do we study it?
You end up in that position.
Brilliant. Yeah, exactly right. You end up there. Okay? So you have to know what to do when you're there. All right? Those are the four guards. Any questions on them? So we've got stance, footwork, grip, and guards. Yes?
Where do you normally hold your axe?
Oh, did I not say you want to hold it right in the middle? Third, third, third. Okay?
Like that?
When you're fighting in war, you don't want to. Okay? Let me show you why. You three guys, come up here. Stand in a line. Dave, you too. Come up here and stand in a line. Okay, here I am. Now we're about to fight in a line. Right? So in war, this is how we use the axe. Okay? But in single combat, thank you, gentlemen, you will be rewarded in the next slide. In single combat, this is stupid. Okay? Gosh, I hope he doesn't do anything before I get back. Balance. I just told you the Pollaxe is about unbalance. It's about calling balance out of that unbalance. You want to be able to use either end of the axe immediately. Does that make sense? So you want to hold it in the middle. Now, when you train with me a little more and you get more advanced, you'll learn that there's exceptions to that. And sometimes when I need a little more room on a stroke, I'll let my hand come out a little bit because I know that I need to recover very carefully. You with me? And there are thrusts that slide that we're going to show you in just a second. But I want everybody to understand that you really want to be as much in the middle of the axe as you can be all the time. Because otherwise, you tend, like when guys do a displacement with this, you see their hands creeping up. And then they can't do anything with this end of the axe. You follow me? And one of the principles I'm going to be teaching you is that you use an axe end to end to end to end to end. Too many guys, they get in a fight and they do something and then they're trying to do lots of stuff. No, you go to the other end of the axe, he does something like that, you go back to this end of the axe and you switch. Okay? All right, attacks. Let's start with what is called an Oberschlag, or a strike from above. Now, I want you to notice that I'm not over here like this, right? I'm here. And all I'm going to do is, as I do a passing step, I'm going to strike. Now, the German principle says that you follow the blow. That means your hands start, and then your foot steps. And here's why. If I start by stepping first, I have brought a target into measure. Right? Does everybody understand the term measure? Do I need to explain that? Yeah. Okay. Measure, the distance between. Okay, sorry. The Germans say all art depends on length and measure. His reach and the measure between you, yeah? Okay. So I'm bringing my targets into his measure before I've done anything. On the other hand, if I move my hands first, he is forced to defend himself. Now I have the vor. and he's done something helpless. And now I'm going to do the next thing. Do you see what I mean? Okay, so you want to follow the blow. So your hands start, and your foot follows. Now you want to strike down this way into the head. Okay? We're going to talk about sideways blows, but this seems to be the angle we've seen in the books. All right, so let's practice the Oberschlag a couple of times. Okay, now, I saw almost everybody do this. Watch how I strike. What did my left hand do? Went along for the ride. I got two hands. Right? Let's use both hands. Okay? If Joe holds his axe out as a brace, right, and I come in and I strike that way, that's pretty powerful, right? But if I strike that way, see I'm pulling up with my left hand as I do it, it makes the strike much, much harder. And if you're going to hit a guy in armor with a hammer whose helmet is strapped down to his freaking breastplate, I'm thinking you need a little force, right? So we push-pull as you strike. Does that make sense? Push-pull. You with me? Oh, do it with a step. That's it. Maybe not all the way up to the armpit, but no, what the hell, right? So instead of yeah. Now, here's the important thing to remember, though. Well, first of all, don't pull back first and then go. That is a horrible mistake, and I'm not picking on you, lots of people do it. You see guys do this. That's like sending me a telegram, right? Oh, gee, Joe's about to hit me in the head. Maybe I should consider a plan. A properly done blow has no tells at all. It just happens. See what I mean? Y'all with me on that? No tells at all. Really crucially important. Okay?
So the weapon moves first, but only split second.
A split second. That's all you need. Because it's going to move your weapon into his range first, and that's what you really care about. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, now, we've gotten to here. So we're just going to pull our weapon down to this, because this is kind of useless. There isn't a lot we can do from here. So we're going to pull the weapon down to here. Pull your hand into your belly. Okay, because a thrust depends on reach, right? That thrust is not as effective as that thrust. You with me? So, we thrust from here, and we thrust with a lunge. But again, see how sideways you are? In fact, both your feet were sideways, right? When you lunge, watch me do it, guys. I started in a balanced stance, I ended in a balanced stance. You with me? Is that cool? That's it. You drive off with the back foot. The back foot's like a piston, slamming you forward, and then you gather the back foot back in to your back to balance stance. Okay? Everybody with me on that? There are two kinds of thrusts. Thrusts single and thrusts double. This term actually comes from later English sources. The Germans and the Italians describe these attacks, but they don't give them a name. A thrust double, two-handed thrust. Okay? A thrust single is a pull cue, and it can be done with or without footwork. Now it's sneaky as hell, because look at my measure here with Joe. Here's my reach for a thrust double. Here's my reach for a thrust single. But there's a danger, and that's one of the techniques we're going to train today, is to teach you the danger involved in that. Okay? It ain't good, let's just put it that way. All right, now let's pick the weapon up like this. I said we were going to use this guard, but at least want to show you. This is an overstick, okay? And again, it can be done through single or double. Thrust double is simply a lunge, an extension of the arms, right? Bam. However, more commonly than not, an overstick, above, stick. Yeah, that should be an easy mnemonic, right? Is more often done as a thrust single. You want to talk about the fastest action in this entire art. What's the matter?
Jeff
I'm the master of that.
Yeah, he's really good with that.
It's the thing, guys, and he's right. You move your point around a little bit so the other guy doesn't know what you're doing, you go bam! With or without a lunge.
It's a nice surprise.
It's wickedly good. So normally when we do an Unterstick from the guard to the low dag, we do a thrust double. Normally, when we do an overstick with a thrust of the Q, we do a thrust single. Any questions on that? Okay, let's, one last thing we'll talk about, and then we'll take a short break before everybody gets water. Here we have a man in armor. It's an Italian harness. I don't know what I was thinking. All right. What's that?
It's the best.
It's one of the best, isn't it? It's sexy. Joe drew this, by the way.
Good job,
Joe.
Joe.
Nice job.
Nice.
Okay. The masters tell us how to attack a man in armor. And I'm going to give you the whole schlub, but here's what it comes down to. Stick him where the armor isn't. That's it, guys. Okay, let's all go home, right? The armpit is one of your primary targets. The backs of the legs, depending on the type of cuisse he wears. If he's English, you're sort of screwed. Go for the ass, right? The back of the knee, the inside of the elbow joint, the face, and to a lesser extent, the head. Okay? Now, an interesting point that I worked out with, does anybody know Will McLean? The late Will McLean, I know. Oh my God. He is my guru of medieval tournament fighting. And unfortunately, he passed away. He and I had a big debate and discussion about this. When you see most of the Fechtbooker, when they're doing judicial combat, now, I'm going to distinguish two kinds of fighting. Will called it consensual and non-consensual fighting, which I think is funny as hell. But it's sport fighting, which he called consensual. And non-consensual is a duel or a judicial combat. There's a very hair-thin line between those two things. What's interesting is that when they fight not to the death, but a fight where death is likely, or at least really possible, and just because it's a lethal fight doesn't mean they're actually trying to kill each other. It's a whole other subject. They usually leave the visors off their helmets. And I didn't understand this until I went to Mac's shop and put on Toby Capwell's Armet. And I had somebody do low techniques, and I couldn't see shit below here. Okay? You don't know what you can't tell where it's targeting. Right? Plus, you can't breathe as well. So, frequently in the Fechtbook, not every one, but the majority of them, you do not see a visor on. It's an open face. That's so you can see and breathe better.
What about the wrapper? Are they leaving the wrapper on? Or
No, they're definitely not wearing the wrappers. No, Fiore shows a couple of guys with wrappers, I think. He has some of those early 15th century Armets, you know, the round type. And I think he's got wrappers on those, but the visor part is off. I'd have to look again.
There's a combination of open face and closed face in all of the armored sections.
Yeah. But then Fury didn't really know anything about fighting. Sorry, guys. Just slipped out.
I take some issue.
Anyway, so the face is a huge target, right? Because a thrust like that hard is enough to kill somebody. You with me? But as Will pointed out, if a smashing blow with the mail can debilitate someone, a smashing thrust with the dag, if it can catch, and if you have a wrapper like this, that's hard as hell. But remember, you've got the side, right? Everybody's too caught up in glancing surfaces. Glancing surfaces have more to do with jousting than you do with combat, because there is no surface that you can't turn to attack to hit it flat on. Does that make sense? So even if he has a wicked cool wrapper like this, he turns his head that far, now you've got a wickedly good flat spot to hit. So you can thrust hard enough with the dag of the axe to stun someone through a helmet, even with his visor closed. You with me? Again, it's a question of how heavy the liners are in most of it, and the extent to which these weren't a grand bassinet makes a difference. Okay. All right. So the hands are obviously a target. Even in armor, a smash with the mail in the hands, or as I talked about, the novel whose name is still just jumping right out of my head, and I have it laying on my desk right now, where they use the tail to attack the tips of the fingers. Okay? Those are our primary targets. Tops of the feet, depending on what type of sabaton the guy is wearing, can be a lethal target. Thrust single, down, you know, you're just standing here and you go, fight's over, guys. Billy has been stapled to the floor.
Stay right there.
That's right. Okay? So those are the primary targets. Any questions about where you attack? Good. Let's take like a 5-minute break. Everybody get some water in you, especially against an Oberschlag, against a strike from above. This is used when your opponent strikes with a steep attack, like 15 degrees coming down, okay? What Fiore calls a cut that goes through his ear, through his mouth, and down to his knee. Actually, we use that in our school because Fiore's the only one who actually specifies the exact angle of attack. So that's my one, that's my one happiness with Fiore. All right, so anyway, so Joe is going to attack with an Oberschlag from above at a steep angle. Okay? Now, there's a lot happening there that isn't obvious right at the first moment. First of all, let's go in slow motion. As he comes in, I bring my hands up this way and then over. Note that I'm hitting his axe with the front of my shaft. You follow me? I'm not hitting him like this. See what I mean? Not this, but this. That means I go up and over like that. Also, notice that my right hand is pulling down to my hip. I'm not doing this. I'm doing this. Okay? You want a large angle of incidence in your displacements. It really helps. Again, that's not in the books, that's a Hugh thing. I'm always going to try and distinguish between what I learned doing free play and what the masters say. They're vague on some of these details, trust me. Notice too that I'm not doing this. Who was open there? Who had the 4?
Yeah, I didn't.
Nobody, right? Nobody had the 4, yeah? But watch the way I do it. Who has the 4? Okay? So in slow motion, just watch my actions. Up, over, recover, thrust. It could be thrust double, thrust single. I happen to be at a good range, so I just did it double. Everybody with me on that? One last time. You feel that popping action? Yes? Okay. What I really want to do here is rip this weapon out of his hands. And I don't care which way he's gripping it. The trick is to go out between his thumb and his fingers, which means hitting this side of his axe. Cardinal rule, Le Jeu de la Hache says, never let him behind your axe. Okay? Because that way, he can punch it out between your thumb and fingers. If you get into a bind, you always want to bind into your palm. It's dangerous to bind this way. Although I'm going to teach you one word. We do that. Right? Never say never, yes? Okay, so let's pair up. If he comes in with a really horizontal strike, you gotta like get him up and over to do it. And it takes away from that a number of you felt when I popped your axe, how it felt like you just went away, right? You can't do that when you got to do the lift up and over thing. So then when you pull back, he's just going to pull back with you. That's okay. The master's got you covered. We're prepared for that guy who doesn't do what you'd like him to do. That's what we call him. Right, so in this case, my opponent is going to strike with a flat stroke. And I'm going to do what we call the Berlin Wall. Now remember how I told you that the end that's forward is always the foot that's forward? I lie like a cheap polyester 70s rug. Because here's the exception, okay? I don't want to step because it takes too long. I want to go fast, and I'm using the slow end of my weapon. But let me show you what I'm not doing. I didn't do that. I did the Berlin Wall. I let him hit me. I acted in the time of the hand. Right, think of the times. If I just move my hand, that's the time of the hand. If I move my hand and the body, that's the time of the hand and body. If I got a step, that's the time of the hand, body, and foot. Okay, those are the true times from George Silver. The German system uses exactly that same idea, it just doesn't call them that. False times. Move my foot first, then my body, then my hand. Well, I'm dead by the time the hand gets out, so that's pretty much a false time, right? Okay. The step takes long. Each of those is progressively slower. Do you follow me? He's attacking with the same weapon I'm using, the heavy end. I don't have the speed advantage that the Q gave me. That's okay. I'm going to cheat and create a way of stopping that from mattering. But I don't need to hit his axe. In fact, all I have to do is get right to here. Because even if he hits me in the head, I'm wearing a freaking helmet. All I have to do is kind of interfere with it a little bit. Do You follow me?
Take the sting out.
What's that?
Take the sting out.
Yeah, exactly, right? We can debate whether you can bury somebody who's wearing a grand bassinet. I can certainly bury somebody wearing a bassinet or an armet. But I guarantee you that if you put a little bit of a block in the way, I can't do shit. Does that make sense? Okay, so all I really need to do is interfere. And that's okay. I want him to drive my axe in. I want him to push in this way. That's my next action. And we're right back to the cube resets. So what I've really done is stopped his axe from that sideways motion that's hard to deal with, and then use my cube resets in anyway. Does that make sense? Now, unless you come over here, unless you do this right, you're going to end up confused. This is one case where you really must bring this hand down. If you try and do it this way, it feels like you never have enough room. And when I first tried to learn this, I was like trying to, well, maybe you bend your back. And no, my helmet weighs 17 pounds. I don't want to do that, right? So I said, how do I get that range? Well, right there. Because I kept it in tight to my body and brought it way down here like this and used both hands, I have plenty of room, even though he's practically inside my brayette with me. You follow me? It's a big brayette, you know. Okay? So, again, this technique, this is called the quadriceps, but we call it the Berlin Wall because I make the Berlin Wall, open him up, and use the same technique we just did. Does that make sense to everybody? Please give it a try. And keep your stance and everything. Let me show you one of the really important reasons why you want to do that. This technique is called the Hintertreppe, or as we call it, the back lever throw. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create an absolute barrier that will make me absolutely, unquestionably safe no matter what my opponent does. As he strikes, I'm going to step across. See that? I'm not stepping sideways. I'm not turning 90 degrees. But I'm stepping on that diagonal. So here our feet are in line because we're both in the balance stances. I'm going to step towards that foot to create a slight angled position. And at the same time, I'm going to create a wall, catching his weapon on my demi-half. Now, no matter what he did with that stroke, he can't possibly hit me. He can't hit my knee. He can't hit my head. This is an absolute defense. Now, it's not a perfect defense, because then he could use his cue to knock it out of my hand, because his cue is behind me, right? So, don't take that the wrong way, but it is a perfect defense against an overshot. You with me? I don't care what his angle of attack is. I don't care what his height is. This is a perfect defense. Now, because I've stepped here, notice I'm not stepping on his foot. I'm just a little bit away from his foot. Now I'm going to maintain, this is called Armacht. It means on the axe. I'm going to keep pressure to stay on the axe with him, and I'll rotate up and over, and I'm going to put my cue around his neck. Come on this side, John. Now the important thing is that I want to catch his neck in the V formed by my hand and my cue, because that's the strong of my axe, right? And I intend to put him on his tuchus. Now notice I'm trapped behind his leg, and I'm going to rip him backwards over. Now I don't want anybody doing an actual throw here. However, I want you to try something when you get in here. I want your opponent to resist a little bit and pull this way. Okay? Then I want you to pick up your right hand and let him resist. And I don't care what he is. I don't care if he's Godzilla, he's going to go down. I would love for a kinesthesiologist to talk about this and why it affects, but I think it changes the vector of force to bend you that way and breaks your balance, making it difficult to resist, is my sort of amateur take on it, okay? For the love of God, people, it really works. Please, do not do it for real. Just give a little honest resistance and a little pressure so you feel the difference. You with me on that?
And there's always the R2-D2 maneuver.
Yeah, that's what all the guys do, is they catch themselves and keep them falling over. All right, so watch me again, all in one motion this time. Okay? And right in. You with me? My foot, I want to get here, calf to calf with the, this part of my foot, the curve in of the instep against the back of his heel. I don't want my foot here, although that works pretty well, but this works even better. Okay? Everybody with me? Give it a go. I told you that the Pollaxe is primarily a spear with benefits. we saw that a little bit in the Fear Fair sets. Let me show you the ugliest spear defense you will ever see. This is called the opposites. Is used against a pretty normal Oberschlag. This is called a single time thrust with opposition. And it is the love child of German martial arts. Okay? Master Lichtenauer loved this idea more than anything. And it is when you displace and kill in exactly the same action. There is no block here. It's as if he put his weapon down and he just stepped up at me and I killed him. That's all there is to this technique. And where you're going to screw it up, sorry, taught this for like more than 10 years now, is you're going to try and block. You're going to do this. It's not. I'm not kidding. It is simply bam. Okay? Let him hit you. Now, I always do this with a lunge. It isn't really necessary. I have short arms. And I think that's a factor. Some of you guys who have more reach, not mentioning any names, may not have that as an issue, okay? But I want you to look at something very carefully. Try and like clump behind Joe. I want you to see the angle at which I'm holding my axe. I am not doing this. I am creating a wedge by holding my left hand farther out. Bam! See it? Not here, but here. Now, if you try and block, let me show you what's going to happen. Put just a little bit. See where my point went? Because I was worried, even if the block worked, who has the board? Yeah, right? That's what happens when you, and it's mostly a mental thing. If you think about stopping the blow, your point tends to go offline. If you just think about inserting point A into tab B, everything works. I swear to God, it's as much psychological as anything else. Okay, you with me on this? Now, for those of you who are not wearing gauntlets, you might want to think about how much force you're willing to have smash into this hand as you slide up into contact with him. Because the contact point is literally right here. Okay? So be careful and don't hurt each other's hands if you're not wearing gauntlets. Any questions? Notice I'm turning my axe over. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this, it's completely inverted. That helps. It's a rotational action that helps with the wedge effect. Does that make sense? No? Don't pick it up. Do it as it goes out. You see what I mean? Again, this is another technique that is fantastic, especially when you're wearing arms, band braces and gauntlets, to be in a thumbs opposed grip. You can do it the other way, but I think it works best in a thumbs opposed grip. Any questions? What's that? I like it best thumbs opposed. You can absolutely do it either way. Okay?
There aren't any of them that you can't do either way.
Yeah, some are just a little better one way. Remember, guys, it's not picking your axe up and over. It is, I want you to picture a vector, right? This line of force that goes straight to the target. It doesn't go over and then in. It wedges straight in, all in one action. You with me? It's very subtle. Don't lean. You got 60 pounds of armor hanging. Do you want it to hang over like that? That's right. So you got a lunge, which means dragging that back foot in. Sorry, that's it. All right, let's give it a go, guys. But it's so cool. And it defies the laws of physics and geometry and the time-space continuum, so I had to show you. We are going to do a simplified version of this technique, but I want to introduce you to the idea of it in its full glory. There's a concept in German martial arts called the Nachreisen. And the Nachreisen, people think it's a technique. It's not. It's a set of principles. If we're standing here like this, and Joe cocks back his weapon to hit me, I'm just going to hit him. That's a Nachreisen. I have followed after. That's what Nachreisen literally means. I have followed after him. Okay? Sometimes, when you can't get a guy to fight, you want to get him to do a Nachreisen. Okay? You want to lure him in. Anybody's seen any guys fight, you see the guy who's constantly backing away, and he won't come into the engagement range so you can like impress Helga in the sidelines with all your cool moves. So here's how we get him to come into the fight. Now we're not going to do all of this in the fight. I'm just going to show it to you. So I'm going to start at Joe, and I'm going to intentionally throw a bad Arma style stroke. That's the hint of fire. Okay?
Hindered by the tree.
Yeah, the tree's on your side apparently, but it still worked. Okay?
Be nice to my tree.
Oh, that's terrible.
You can beat the crap
Come
out of
this
the
way.
tree. I couldn't care less.
Okay, so here's the thing. He jumps out of the way to avoid my strike, and then he comes back to me. And I hit him. Okay? Now, you're starting behind him when he's striking at you full force, and you still catch him. I don't.
You gotta be quick.
You know what? It's not about speed. It really isn't. It's about angle. If you move at the right angle, you're sort of shortening the radius of the curve, if that makes sense. I joke about it, the geometry of it, but it really does work. Now here's how we're going to practice it. You're going to start in the guard of the low dag, and he's going to attack. You're going to extend your arms. This is an important step. Everybody ignores this part. You're going to extend your arms out a little bit. Now look where I am. I am not doing this. I'm not swinging to the side. I'm swinging straight back like that. And notice I use both hands. If you just use one hand, it doesn't work very well. Both hands. See that? Bam. And again, you don't stop. It's stroke, stroke. Right? It's all one action. This is not two actions. It is one continuous, unending action. Now, the biggest mistake people make is they go too straight up. And then you're going to get hit. Okay? Or they go too far out, and it ends up being sort of a strength competition. Again, come here. I want you to watch it very closely. The angle at which I strike Joe's weapon. See that? And trust me, when you do it right, you don't feel it. It doesn't take any effort at all, even though he's strong, because he's going which way already. Okay? Now this looks like a fussy, complicated technique, and you're going, all right, I'll learn this, but I'd never use it in bullshit. This really freaking works. It is amazing how well it works. But the trick is you got to extend your hands a little bit and then pull straight back. Look, both hands. See that? Now, you don't have to go quite this far, but I'd rather you went this far so you'll learn it, and then you can kind of tone it down a little bit. Okay, you with me? Go faster. I don't care. I win. You see it? Because I'm cutting that angle. Yeah, I wish my math was good enough. I'm reducing the radius of the curve a little bit somehow. Does that make sense? Let's not go really fast, guys. let's, if anybody who doesn't think it will work full speed, I will be happy to show it to you. Okay? But I think you just saw Joe went pretty quickly, and like I didn't have to even try hard. So, what does every technique that I showed you in the first part of the class have in common?
Defense.
Their displacement.
Behind the knock. Yeah.
Think about the attack.
It's the vor.
Yeah.
Oh.
Every single one was an Oberschlag.
Yeah.
When you read Le Jeu de la Hache, and this is freaking unbelievably rare, it is well and reasonably organized. Other Fechtbücher, not so much. Like, not at all. Le Jeu de la Hache breaks down the techniques it shows based on the part of the axe. So the first section is plays of the mail. The second section is plays of the dag. The third section is plays of the cube. And the fourth section is techniques against a guy using the axe left-handed, which we'll talk about. So every one we looked at was the Oberschlag, the plays of the mail. Okay, so now we're going to look at plays of the dag. This workshop, not surprisingly, is going to be structured in exactly the same way as Le Jeu de la Hache does, except with one extra category. Now, how many kinds of thrusts are there?
2.
4. There's 2 Oberstick and 2 Unterstick. It's a trick question. We're going to look at the most common of them and how to react to them. Okay? Now, if I'm standing here fighting Joe, okay? Yeah, go this way. I'm standing here fighting Joe, and I'm in the guard of the low dag. Okay? And Joe's in high Q, maybe. Right? And I'm looking at this going, look at all those openings I can get to. I can't reach him. Oh, but I got that cool thrust single. And the thrust single from this guard, holy shit, I can hit him from Rancho Cucamonga. There really is a place called Cucamonga. When I moved out here, I almost wet myself laughing. Look at all that reach I have. Holy God. That thrust is unstoppable. No, it really isn't. Because remember the strong and the weak of the axe. When you do a thrust single, you create a whole shitload of weak of the axe. And you make it almost impossible to do anything with your weapon. So that's the first technique we're going to look at. How do you counter a thrust single Unterstick? All right, and how do you get away with it? So, if my opponent attacks with the thrust single, watch what happens. Now, I'm way out of range. I mean, even with a step, I cannot hit Joe. Okay, but he can hit me with a thrust single. He has so much weak that he has no control over his weapon. And all I need to do is tap it aside, and he cannot possibly get back in and do something before I can nail him. Now, it requires me to hustle my ancient decrepit buns into that gap, but I have time, because once I step past his point, his axe is useless. It's like a spear in that regard. A spear is lethal when you're here, and absolutely worthless when you're here. Okay? You with me? So the technique is just what you did in the first class. The very first technique we did is the Kuversetzen, and we're going to do that against the thrust single from the Unterstick. See how it works? I want you to hit his weapon like somewhere where Joe has tape here. That part of the axe, that's where I want you to make contact. Remember that you've got to bring this hand down to the hip, but you can't do as much upswing, right? Because his weapon is lower. So it's kind of more like this and not like that. Does that make sense, everybody? You want to open it, you want to send that point as far out to the side as you can possibly get it, but you don't want to do this. Because he can just pull back while I'm pulling, but no, just pull straight back.
Oh yeah.
Right? He can just pull back while I'm pulling back, and right? So I have to open him and give myself a fencing time to step in. Does that make sense? All right, give her a go. This time, Joe is going to attack my face with a thrust double Unterstick, okay, so from underneath. Here I'm not as strong at doing that, and he's got a really good grip position there, and I can't knock it out of his hand because right, he's going against the back of his hand really when he's doing this kind of as he has it turned, unless he did something like this. So what I want to do is I really want to get into him safely and grab him. That's my best choice. So we're going to use the back lever throw again. All right, again with the Kuversetzen, and right in I come. Now watch my footwork. Too often I see people doing this. Right? Two small steps are faster than one long step. Right out of the Dobringer house book. I'm going here, right? So I'm displacing as I step in, and that's my set step, my adjustment step. That lets me just go to here with my second step.
So you set it up for the first step.
That's right. But I'm not going to go fast. And watch what happens when Joe moves faster than I do. Who won? But he's into it. He moves faster than I did. Doesn't fast always mean better? Right? Physics, baby. It's awesome. But it's about being casual. And here, I don't have to I don't need to knock him into... Remember how I told you in those other ones? I want you to knock it way over so you have all that room? I don't need that room. I don't care if you follow back with your axe. Go ahead. All you're doing is helping my back lever throw. You see what I mean? So in this one, you notice that I'm not knocking him as far over. Well, okay, almost as far over. I do that kind of well, though. I've got plenty of room to go. Because all I have to do is get here. See where my cue is? Once my cue is there, he can pull all he wants. And what's he going to do? You follow me? So all I need to do is get my cue past his face, and I win. unless he knows how to kind of hint at me. Which I'm not going to show any. I'm old and fat and broken down. I need to keep some stuff to myself. All right, so let's do that. Je, le grand oui, as we call him. I'm sorry.
Look, what does that mean?
It's a French term. It's a French term. It's a technical term, yeah. Okay, let's do the Q knock. Yeah, Q knock. So, no, low Q. All right, so you get this guy, and he has not had Hugh's excellent workshop on the Pollaxe. And all he knows is he's supposed to have his Q forward, and he gets it a little too far. In fact, he brings it up far enough. Here's a fact of geometry. When your Q is down there, it's out of my reach, right? If he's down by his knee, I can't get it. But if he picks up his Q, suddenly, life is different. He brings his Q into my reach. I'm not gonna let that pass. This is called the Q knock. Okay? It can be a stroke. I happen to like the thrust version. Now, let me show you how you're going to do it wrong. This is unhealthy for children and other living things. Okay? I do not want that Q anywhere near my testicles. So as I come, I'm going to come across and clear that line as I bring my weapon down in. Okay? Going across so that I can come in with my thrust. Note the footwork. My hands are doing the displacement, well, not displacement, but the knock. And then I step in with a thrust. It is a thrust double Unterstick, yeah? Because I'm really, when I come to here, I'm pulling back into what?
Interesting.
No, the guard of the low dag. Low dag.
Low dag.
And then hit him, okay? It's a very simple technique. As long as you go sideways. All right, everybody with me?
So you're just placing to your left side, right?
That is correct. I'm making a circle that is going counterclockwise, kind of like a spool, the old symbol for a spool of tape.
Yeah.
Right? It goes around and then out. All right, give it a go. Okay. All right. Now, when we did that last technique, Joe very obligingly let me get away with it. But what if he doesn't? What if he's too strong or my attack's too weak? Now he's resisting me. He is... No.
He's in the board.
Hard. He's hard in the bind.
Hard in the bind, okay.
Okay. So what we're going to do, right? This is the remember I told you the infantryman was the hardest one the most complex we do? This is the easiest thing you're going to do today. It's about Fühlen and Indes. Remember the oppositions I talked about at the beginning? I'm going to test the bind by striking it.
Strong means weak.
He's hard in the bind. Okay. If he's hard in the bind, what is he not doing? He's not getting ready to do an attack, is he?
He's not doing anything.
Okay. I don't have a preference. I'm a German martial artist. I care about my opponent. If he wants to stay hard in the bind, I'm all for it. And while he's down there, I'm going to kill him. Okay? Let's just practice. This is not rocket science, people. In our class, we do this as a drill. If the teacher holds hard in the bind, you do the stab. If he holds soft in the bind, you do the knock and go. Okay? And there's another step we're going to add to this. It gets even fancier. But let's just do this one quickly. Just a couple of reps. I don't want to waste a lot of time on something so easy. Like a jerk and wouldn't let me do my cool technique. So I stabbed him in the face. Unfortunately, he doesn't want to let me do that either. So I go to do my Q knock. He's hard in the bind. I thrust in his face. Now he displaces me. Okay. Jerk.
Now we're not playing.
Now we're not playing anymore. Okay? End to end to end. And I know it seems like going from the Q knock to the thrust isn't that, but it's just so quick and easy. It's sort of the exception to the rule. Does that make sense? And I don't want to walk onto his point. Okay? So now we've got this whole sequence. It's a whole line of things. And I specifically brought this to you because one, Lejeune teaches it in this order, in this way. And so you get to see this rolling action that is the German martial arts system. It's about, notice who has the 4 all through this. Bam, bada, bam, bada, bam, bada, bam, bada, bam, bada. Not fast, it doesn't need to be fast. It just needs to be constant, rolling pressure, never letting up, almost casual. Musashi talked about this in the Book of 5 Rings, and I don't like to mix and match martial arts systems together like that, but it's so apropos. He called it holding down the head with a pillow. You got to go home and read about it. It's this exact thing. It's about keeping a constant, soft, overwhelming pressure that he's helpless to resist, and he just makes a mistake. And it's all about keeping the floor over and over and over. Okay, so watch it again. Got it? Again, balance stance to balance stance, people. Don't get funky with this. Okay, questions? Be about it. This one's a little on the fussier side. Now let's say that you strike at somebody and you find that all he cares about is displacing your attack. So you stroke and he just makes no with the cue. We're gonna do the knee hook. And you realize, oh, he's into the big, heavy, overdone strokes with the cue to displace my attack. You say, I've been fighting this guy and I see he's into this, okay? One of the tenets of the German martial art is to avoid empty displacements. Empty displacement meaning just knocking the guy's weapon aside without doing anything about it. You realize this guy's like that, okay? So you do that a couple of times in these places, and then you do it as a feint. And it goes past. And now you do this. Now, there's a magic trick involved in this. You have to pay close attention to it. As I take my axe down, I must rotate it like that. See that? And let me just tell you guys with gauntlets, you need to practice this one a bit. Because the gauntlets is not as easy as I make it look. But it can be done, and you learn it pretty quickly. What we found is that different people like to do it differently. I thought there was a right and a wrong way to do this, and I'm wrong. Joe, just like stick your axe out like that on the ground. Okay, so this is Joe's knee, okay? I turn my axe this way. Okay? And I use my left hand. I open and relax my right hand, but I'm still pushing with it. And I use my left hand to turn it. And then I re-grip when I get down there. Some people like to go the other way. And I thought there was a right or wrong. I no longer believe that. I think we're built differently, and different people like to move through that differently. You're going to have to mess with it. This takes some practice with gauntlets. It really does. I practiced on a bed stand, or a bed, posts on a bed. Yeah, I wasn't supposed to do that. But anyway, it's about hooking the leg with the bec de faucon. Now here's the important part. And again, that's Joe's leg. Hold it, like press down. Okay? I'm not doing this. I'm not reaching out and trying to snag him with the bec. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm striking his knee and then pulling. Do you see that difference? If you just reach out and try and grab with the bec, you often miss. You don't get in far enough. You just get the little tip hangs on and it pops off as you hook him. Okay? Depending on the size and shape of the wing on his Pauline, you may need to go over or under it to get at it. Okay? Nobody has leg armor here today, so it's not going to be an issue.
Well, it's here, but it's not enough wearing it.
Don't bother, no. But be aware that you have to be aware of the wing as you use this. Okay? As you do the hook, once it's set, you don't just pull backward with your arms. You lunge powerfully to the rear, using the front leg as a piston, yanking with your arms, and pulling your hips back. And if you do that, he's going to sit down. Okay? So, let's watch it again. So here's how we're going to, it's going to be a little artificial, right? So I'm going to strike at Joe, and he's going to displace, and I'm going to recover quickly. But he didn't do anything, so I wasn't really in any danger, and I go, oh, he's one of those guys. So then I'm going to go, now notice my feet aren't moving. I'm supposed to do the displacement. He does the empty displacement, you go bam, and bam. I don't want anybody really pulling on the knee. It's too easy, especially on this footing isn't perfectly sure, you slip. Just place it and like give a gentle tug to make sure it's there. okay? Also, don't hit too hard. I want you to strike with this against the side of the knee. Think how much that's gonna hurt, okay? So just gently place it. Everybody with me on that? All right, let's give it a go. I don't wanna sit my butt down in this gravel. That would hurt on my delicate tushy. All right, so here's the counter.
And it would scratch you.
Oh, which is just wrong.
Yeah.
I think Mora wants to get on this, Joe.
Just wrong. Okay, so, same thing, all right? Feint, strike and he block. No, you block. I didn't block.
I block.
Oh, okay. You know what, let's have you do it. 'Cause I'm
Right, I
gonna
got to
the
do it,
counter.
so you're
Right.
doing the counter, so.
All right, so he strikes. No, let's do the whole.
Okay.
And I just stupidly recover. Okay, and he goes again, and he hooks. Now, about a third of the time, if you're good, and he does the hook correctly, your cue will catch his beck and rip his axe out of his hands. Whether that happens or not is not a function of skill. At least, I think I do it pretty farking well, and I only catch it about a third of the time, because it's a function of how the angles meet as you're ripping back through. But I didn't catch it that time. Did he get my knee? No, he did not. I have come to believe it doesn't matter. All right, so let's look at it again. Well, I'll throw your feint. Now there I cut it on my hand actually, all right? Rip, thrust. So you're already here. He's going for the hook. All you have to do is step back. Did I get you?
Yeah, got the finger. Sorry.
I'm sorry. All you need to do is step back and don't swing sideways. Rip it straight down, people. Because what you're going to do wrong is you're going to try and hit it sideways. And all you've done is bring his axe up for him to hit you somewhere else. Okay? So here's my overdone displacement. As I see him stepping in, I rip and nail him. You with me? It's not hard. The secret to it is when you're over here, you've done this overblown displacement. No, I'll do it without you. I've done this overblown displacement. You must pull it straight down. Look how close I am to my knee. You guys are all going to do it out here like this and then wonder why it doesn't work. You're laughing. I see you smiling. Guess what? I'll be right. Okay? Come straight down here and I step as I do it. Okay, the step goes right, and then from there I'm just set up.
But what if he's got your leg?
You'll knock it right
on
off.
His back.
Hook my
If
knee.
you try to step back,
But
at the same time, don't you need to do your motion with the?
oh yeah, you always follow the blow.
Right.
Right? The hands always go just a little bit ahead of the. Is that not how I demonstrated it?
Well, you were kind of saying that it was almost simultaneous, and I just wanted.
It is almost simultaneous. Yes, absolutely. Your hands have to go first by just a millisecond. Good point.
I mean, if you're in armor, that beck isn't going to catch much on your greave anyway.
No.
It's going to be very slidey.
Well,
It's going to take very little to dislodge it, even.
the trick is to get unless the wing is too big, I like to go down over top of it and wedge in behind.
Over the top of the fan.
Over the top of the fan. And then with that just a little bit of an angle, that point on the back hooks your knee.
Yeah.
It is not pleasant. You can do this with the taillon of the axe, you know, the axe blade one. You saw how it kind of sticks down into a point? Yeah, you can hook with those. That happened accidentally during a photo shoot. All right, so let's give this. Okay, and now for something completely different. Still in the place of the cue. Joe is going to attack with a thrust. And I'm going to get displaced. Excuse me. Now this works whichever of us thrusts first. But for convenience, we're going to all stick with one and have the teacher do the thrust. Now, I must now use fueling. Now look at my bind, right? Where am I? I must use fueling. If he is hard, if he is soft in the bind, I'm just going to drive him around, smack him in the head. Okay? If he is hard in the bind, that won't work. So I'm going to go under his axe, knock it aside, and either hit him in the head or thrust him in the face. Okay? Those are my two choices. So I want to introduce you to a concept that I call active feeling. Here's the problem. If I bind and sit here and try and figure out whether he's hard or soft, he's going to go to the next thing, and that means he has the 4. I don't want him to have the 4. Okay? And this is why I put indus as the opposition to feeling. I cannot just sit here and feel the bind. I have to be ready to do the next thing. Indus, immediate. Do you see what I'm talking about? So it's a conundrum. I have to stop and feel the bind, but if I stop and feel the bind, I'm not acting indus. So what the hell do I do? I, personally, this is my take on it. This is, however many years I've been doing this, trying to figure out, created what I call the concept of active feeling. Active feeling means you determine whether he's hard in the bind by acting as though he was not, I'm sorry. Okay? So when I go into this bind, I don't stop at all. I immediately try to do the technique I would use in a soft bind. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then I change gears. And I have time to do that, because when I push on his weapon and he's hard in the bind, he's going to resist me. Okay, so then we're going to go. That's active feeling. Does that make sense? This is how I have reconciled these apparently contradictory ideas of feeling, which takes a moment to check, and indus, which means do it right the fuck now, laddie. You with me? Okay, so we're going to practice these one at a time. First is the soft bind. He's going to pick up and thrust him in a bind, rip around, and nail him. You can either hit or thrust, whatever you want to do. Okay? That's all there is to it. It's not any harder than that. I will tell you that if you don't pull your hand down to your hip like I told you, it's going to be a bitch. And you're often going to come off. Okay? So come down here like this to do your displacement. As you push around, don't sweep here, because then he's just going to bring his point back online and nail you. And it's not that you couldn't do something about that, but we don't want to work that hard. Okay? Make it clean. Guys, this is not the guard of the low Q. Let's go back to the first part of class. This is the guard of the low Q. You start here, so does he. He picks up his weapon, he starts the thrust. Boom. Rip around, come into him. You see how I stayed oxed all the time, keeping pressure on so I don't slide off at any point. Yes? All right, let's give it a go, guys. This, right? We're just going to do the other side. So this time he's going to be hard in the bind. So you're going to drop under as small a circle as you can teach yourself to do. Notice I'm not really moving my right hand, am I? Take my left hand, just drop it over, and then I'm levering it out of the way. Now let me tell you what you're going to do wrong. You're going to pull it straight back. And then you're going to wonder why you're so dead. Okay? This has to be a sideways motion like that. See how I swept it away? You go to push, doesn't work. Boom. Are you with me? Look at the angle that I'm moving his axe. Right? I'm not coming here. I'm not coming straight back. I'm not pushing straight down, because he would just hit me, someplace low, or zooking under it, right? I'm sweeping out, bringing my axe around. Okay? You with me? And again, it could be a blow. It could be, I like thrusting. You take that dag and stick it to the nasal slot in the guy's face, you're almost always going to win. If I hit him, I might have to hit him 2-3 times, and I'm lazy. All right, so let's give it a go. Cue forward. So this time you're up and hiking. I'm about ready to fight, okay? He comes up and he's about to stick me with that axe. I'm going to go bam. The arm rise. The arm rip. Okay? Now, the thing people get wrong with this is it's really hard to hook up into that real small little hole and yank. And you miss 99% of the time. So I played with this, and I played with this, and I played with this. I said, how the hell do we make this work? I'll show you how to make it work. Watch the angle of my axe. I'm going to step forward, and I'm going to smack right up into his arm. Now look what that did to his cue. Right? I didn't try and hook anything, did I? I just hit up under his arm. from there, the catches it. Just rip it over his hand. Okay? See how simple that is? Great, you should all be able to do that. The trick is to take a step that way, because I want to void his thrust if I can, right? So I take a slight step forward and strike right up into his arm. Pushes his cue up so he couldn't hit me if he tried. And then all I have to do is pull through. Okay? And again, you can rip down to here and thrust. If he doesn't let go, you've got a lock to take him down. Okay? Or you turn around enough that you get behind him, and then you do what's called showing him the gate, which we're not going to talk about, but in medieval judicial combat, you could push your opponent out his gate, you won. And they took him off and executed him. Okay, so that's a victory condition. Right? And there's a trick in Le Jeu de la Hache that talks about how to get behind a guy and how to like work, use feeling and then just, feeling behind him and pushing on his back to get him out. We're not going to practice that today. All right, so let's do the arm wrestling. Left hand. No form of any of them shows left-handed techniques. Not long swords or buckler, none of them. Every single one, they're trained to fight right-handed. That includes mounted combat.
Especially mounted combat.
Yeah, well, especially mounted combat.
Really need to.
Well, because mounted combat you can't do without sort of agreeing to do it with each other. That's the funny thing. Except Pollaxe. The last section of Le Jeu de la Hache has a series of plays of left-handed Pollaxe. But none of them are done left-handed by the hero, the guy that's going to win the fight. Okay? What's that?
It's a sinister left-hander.
Well, I don't think they thought that way. I just think they thought you fought right-handed, and that's all there was to it. I cannot tell you whether people actually fought left-handed by choice or because they were left-handed and just wanted to do that some of the time. I kind of doubt the latter, only because if that was the case, we'd see it in some other form, and we don't. Oh, excuse me. All right, so I'm only going to show you one left-handed technique, and the nice thing is you already know it. How cool is that? Okay? So who's a lefty? All right, hold the axe left-handed. It's just the same, only on the other side, right? You get a good look, you switch feet, there you go. Cue in front of the knee.
Oh,
Cue
still
cue
right
in front of the knee.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah, it's the same guard, it's just reversed, okay? Now, I can't do my cue displacement because we're on the wrong side. So I'm going to do the quad displacement on the other side, all right? So as he attacks, here's my displacement, but this is weak. Now, first of all, you got to swing at me, right? Not in front of me. It'd be like a Christian Tobler video, okay? Oh, you got to watch the video. All these guys, they fight axes in front of each other. Anyway, so you displace here, but it's not strong because you're in the strong position, right? But I got Big Bertha as backup. Okay? So here I'm using the overweight, just like we did in the Q-knock plays, to take control of his bind. And I'm striking into the back of his weapon where his grip is weak. Okay? So, same situation. He attacks, switch feet, hand up. There you go. Okay? So you step in with an attack, and I bind, I win. Okay? It's the Berlin Wall in a sense, yeah? Okay? Here's my Berlin Wall. I've stopped his attack. Now I'm going to knock it out of his hand. Everybody with me? Why don't I just do this? Isn't that simpler? Isn't that like the cue versets that we did, the very first technique? Why don't I do that? Oh, I can do lots of things. If I get that to work, I mean, it's the same as if I've done this, right? It's still going anymore. Well, no, I can knock him. That's not the point.
You get two attacks going the other way.
The point is, I don't have any advantage to him. His heavy end, my heavy end, they move at the same speed. I get no advantage.
So you want to stop him.
I'll stop him with the cue because my cue's fast. Bam, I got him. Now I have leisure in which to act like a gentleman of means. You follow me? If I do this, It's just his speed, his power, my power, they're all the same. You follow me? This is the mind. This guy's a fucking genius. Excuse me, man. I could come from long line of assholes. But anyway,
No
this
point in
guy was
having an even match.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to do anything that's fair. Yeah? Okay, let's give this a go. Remember, just so we've seen all the sides and parts of the axe in order, yeah? But we got these cool techniques where you take the axe away. Does that mean we just lie down and die? Alright? We don't even sound a time. Oh, sorry.
There are always some of us that actually want to whack the axe clean out of your and hit the guy next to you.
Yeah, hit the guy next to you. Yeah. Joe can take 2 out at once. Alright. You can do this technique different ways. Okay? We're going to apply what's called the first wrestling, the Erste Ringen. One of the most important grappling techniques in the German system of martial arts. Joe is going to attack me with an overstick to the face. So he's going to pick his hands up, and here I am, helpless. Oh Lord, whatever will I do? And down he goes. Okay? This is one of our primary grappling techniques with daggers, without daggers, half sword, poleaxe. It's everywhere. Okay? Now, in real slow motion, all I'm going to do is I'm sort of crouching, ready to roll, okay? And I'm going to sweep under him and jam my arm right here. See where it is? It's across his throat. At the same time, don't think because I'm doing this sequentially, it's 2 different things. I reach down and take the back of his knee, not here, here. And then I tear the baby apart. Okay? You stand up, pull and push all in one motion. If you do this right, his feet go here, his head go there, and then there's the moaning and stuff. Right? I would like you all to picture cobblestone streets under your feet.
Bramble.
Yeah, right? Okay? The trick is timing on this. Right? As he picks up his axe, I gotta be going. See that? You don't have a lot of time to dawdle. Now you can do the technique against an Oberschlag. He comes in, and as he passes in to strike, exactly the same. The trick is to get under him. All right? You do the same thing if he punches. Put your axe down. The same technique is we see this in Codex Wallerstein. Okay? He goes to throw a punch at us. You go under the punch and take him down. Okay? The trick to this is not to jam this into the into the armpit like this and try and lift him. It's this motion. Okay? And it's not across that way. I'm throwing him down. And as I do it, I'm going to execute a Mordstasse, a death blow. Okay? Right in the throat. So it's bam. But it's not just my hand hitting his, my whole arm across his chest. Only that's for safety. And at the same time picking this leg. So his balance does this, and I rip it out from under him and down he goes. Y'all with me? I'll show you one last time. But you want your arm lying across him. Don't just hit him in the throat, okay? So again, we're going to do it with the overstick, just so we're all on the same sheet of music. Roll down, go underneath, and your driving motion breaks his balance back. See that? And I've got him here. And you must... I keep seeing guys pull the foot up into their own crotches. Don't do that. It's got to go sideways, and your body does this. You see that? This motion. And it's terrible. Really a powerful throw, okay? Please, for the love of God, be careful.